I get it. Being a teacher is hard, extremely hard. It requires more patience than I can imagine most jobs do. And when you're sitting in your classroom, when you're coaching your students, I imagine that you can envision their future for many of them. You can picture some of them in positions of power, in political office, and some of them you picture maybe not succeeding on many levels at all based on how they perform in your classroom at that time. But under no circumstances is it ever acceptable to look at one of your students and call them a future welfare recipient. That appears to have been what happened at a high school in Kansas City. A basketball coach on video says future welfare recipient right to the face of one of his high school students, a senior high school student. Well, that child just happened to turn his camera on. Now, as the story goes, this child says, this high school senior says, this particular coach had been harassing him for the better part of the last 2 years, and he really was just looking for an opportunity to be able to prove that this coach was actually not a kind man to him, had actually been harassing him. He went to go take a picture with a couple of his friends, and when he did, that coach apparently stopped what he was doing and came over to say something along the lines of, hey, when you're putting that in the yearbook, you should probably put future welfare recipient underneath it. Much the same way when we were in high school, we used to mark people as best hair and most likely to succeed and best laugh and most likely to become a comedian. This particular coach decides to say future welfare recipient to this kid. And so what the kid does is turn his camera on and say, could you repeat that? And the coach did, right into the camera. Future welfare recipient. I don't care how you feel about a child, under no circumstances is something like that acceptable. It's just not. I'm not a teacher. I can't even imagine how trying it must be to deal with all those different types of personalities and to recognize and to believe that some of your children are going to succeed exponentially and some of them will not. And it must feel like you're banging your head against the wall at times, but it's not okay. It's not okay. Your job is to help them succeed, to help them believe in themselves, not to give them a phrase like that that could potentially shape something about who they are down the road. Your job is to make them better, not worse.